You're listening to Coffee Break Flight Instruction by MzeroA.com. Flight training tips in 15 minutes or less. Hey everyone, Jason Shafford here of MzeroA.com alongside good uncle, world famous Uncle Larry Diamond. Welcome to Coffee Break Flight Instruction, flight training tips in 15 minutes or less. Uncle Larry is coming all the way from the world famous Canton Castle in all his HD glory. You get a new MacBook, Larry, and now your camera's wider than mine. I need to come up to the 21st century with you, apparently. But anyways, Larry, you wanted to talk to us today about the PAVE checklist. Let's talk about that really quick.
Okay, when I do the PAVE checklist, I think of it more of a risk stratification and risk analysis. We do this all the time in the hospital. We're always saying, okay, what's the risks or benefits of something, either a medication we're going to give or what kind of intervention we're going to give. And so it's taking like the big picture and then assessing the risk all along the way. And what's nice about the PAVE checklist, actually it's changing all the time. I mean, you may do your I am safe checklist, and then once you get up in the air, you're starting to make different kind of decisions based on the risk analysis of what's happening in there. So just on a general kind of information of what each of the letter means, P stands for the pilot, A stands for the aircraft, V stands for environment, or we call it environment, and E is external pressures. Each one has a really kind of interesting way on how to assess every little part of the flight. So if you want, we can start out with a pilot. So you know me, I'm a big I am safe checklist person. And actually I take that I am safe checklist from the beginning of the morning all the way up to the time of takeoff. I'm always assessing what's happening with me. So I stands for illness, M is medications, making sure there's nothing on board that's going to cause you to have any change in mental status. And then is S is like stress, A is anxiety, F is fatigue, make sure I have at least, well, for me it's like 6 to 7 hours of sleep. Most people should have 8 hours of sleep. And the last one is either eating or emotion. So I want to make sure I'm not hypoglycemic before I take off. Mm-hmm. And so what the pilot has to decide is, okay, am I current? How do I feel today? Can I handle whatever's going to happen today? Can I make the right decisions? And am I, as a pilot, am I ready to take this flight? The next part we're going to talk about is the aircraft. Okay, the first thing that the pilot then has to assess, are they current in an aircraft? Have they gone up, done their 3 takeoffs and landings? Is there any equipment on the airplane? I mean, I go from airplane to airplane. I go from GPS to just having maybe a 6-pack. I go from like maybe 140 horsepower to 250 horsepower each and every time. Am I flying low wing? Am I flying something with a landing gear? And am I current in that airplane? When the last time I've done takeoffs and landings? If I'm flying IFR, have I shot any approaches in IMC? How well am I current in that? And so it's the aircraft really. Did I do my weight and balance on the aircraft? Is there anything that's been squawked over the last time? And then there's been multiple times where I've walked into an airplane and all of a sudden they're saying, well, the attitude indicator hasn't been working for the last, or the brakes are squeaking. Mm-hmm. Even the last time I took a discovery flight, I took a friend of mine who makes all those nice 3-dog bakery type of biscuits for Pito and Magneto. I took him up, and for some reason, I wasn't climbing very well. I was only getting to 200 feet, but I wanted to continue it. Everything was still running. When I got up to altitude, I knew there was a compression problem. So what did I do in order not to scare the pilot around? Is I had to make do. I climbed up to 4,000 feet, and I said, well, okay, if the engine shuts off right now, I'm still going to be able to glide back to the airport without showing him that I... So each and every time, it changes from minute to minute. With the aircraft. And so with the environment, I mean, you and me, we're kind of like weathernistas. We start looking at weather at least, it's months ahead. So I'm start looking at the weather a week ahead because I know it's going to be changing. In Michigan, it changes. Winds are coming through, fronts are moving through. So I want to know everything about the weather I possibly can. And even when you get forecasts, it's only 6 hours ahead. And when I call the flight service station, they're probably get the closest to what's really happening, but I want to know what's going to happen at my airport. Is it then towards night? Is the temperature and dew point going to come together? Is there anything else? I mean, you have pop-up thunderstorms. I have pop-up thunderstorms now in the summer. I mean, I could watch a cell grow in about 10 minutes right over the airport, and I could be in, as we say, deep duty if I don't know what weather is going to happen. And then the last one is external pressures. I've gone in every single situation and have external pressures. I've had passengers who lied about their weight. I've had passengers who didn't tell me they get motion sickness. I've had passengers said I got to get someplace. I've had passengers push me to try and take off to go to a restaurant when the weather wasn't that good. You talked about when we did our Good Pilot Tour, the John F. Kennedy Jr., that had tons of get there-itis, both from the passengers and from the pilot. I've had to, you want to plan ahead. What happens if the weather gets bad? You know that if all the airports along the way, could you get a car? Could you go to an airport that'll actually get a charter to take you there? I mean, I've given lectures out of town where I've taken the airplane, but boy, I made sure that I had an out just in case. So if I couldn't make the flight, that I could get a car and I could drive up to any place I'm speaking of. So that's how I use the PAVE checklist, and I'd really, really be interested in how you feel about the PAVE checklist also.
Well, sure. And guys, just to recap, PAVE, P-A-V-E is the acronym. Guarantee it's going to come up on your check ride. Pilot, aircraft, the V in environment, the E is external pressures. And it is for your aeronautical decision making. The examiner is going to ask you about it. It's going to come up on that check ride. The big one for me, Larry, is the external pressures. Because as somebody who engages in aviation for a living, that's where the pressures really start to come into play. When you add things like money to the equation and that sort of things, the external pressures can really, really, take over in that case. I love how you shared, of course, using the I'm Safe checklist for pilot. And these are things, guys, these aren't acronyms we're just making up. These are acronyms that are actually coming from the FAA, so it's going to be really, really important that you guys know those and have them down cold. So, guys, I appreciate you for tuning in to this quick episode of Coffee Break Flight Instruction, Flight Training Tips in 15 minutes or less. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Coffee Break Flight Instruction from whatever your podcast app is, so you can check that out. So on behalf of myself, world famous Uncle Larry Diamond, and the entire MzeroA.com team, enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, guys. See ya.